Welcome to another episode of Intellicide. In this episode, we're going to be discussing role-playing games.
RPG,
Yes, sir.
tabletop, virtual, whatever.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Absolutely. So have you been playing in person yet, or are you still doing virtual?
No, actually, I've been doing in person. And the group, that's where I got my COVID scare this past time, because one of the gentlemen that was in this group that I had been meeting with, happened to, his family that he lives with got infected. And the problem that I had with that whole situation was that he was feeling symptoms and didn't say anything about it.
Ugh.
Now, again, I understand I'm taking a risk, showing up and playing with these guys in person, but we've been doing this for a year, and this happened, I think, maybe a little over a month ago.
Okay.
And you're feeling sick. He didn't even think that it was COVID. That possibility didn't come into his mind. And that's where I was a little bit upset, just because I had been trusting of everyone there and everything. And so
you're playing in person.
Right.
Are you also doing any virtual?
No, I haven't done virtual. I've signed up for an account on what's that one page? There's multiple ones, but I signed up for one, but I never joined a group on there. I've attempted to join groups, but a lot of them, they have limited spaces, and it's almost like an application process where you have to say, hey, this is who I am. I have this many years of role-playing experience.
So is it Roll20?
Roll20. That's what it was.
Okay. All right. That's what it's funny. That's what I've been using, Roll20, and I've been doing D&D. So it's been D&D Beyond, D&D 5e. And Roll20, you can use like a ton of different systems with it. It's just a virtual tabletop. But yeah, actually, I know there's people who make money DMing on Roll20. Like there's games on there. My brother actually has done like professionally DM'd games on there. And he told me like some of those are worth it, are worth the money.
Right.
For people like, they're really good at what they do. They put in a lot of time preparing.
Yeah. See, I don't want to do that. I don't want to pay to play so much.
Yeah.
And if you want to do that, that's fine. That's just not me. One of the things that I don't like about Roll20 is a lot of them, and I get it. You want to play in a game as well as GM. You don't want to GM all the time. Right. But they want to basically have alternating where, hey, I need another GM, to do, whatever frequency. And then I don't like that. I already have a group that I GM. Right. I'm not trying to
an ongoing group. That's a different thing. I mean, honestly, a lot of that's for people who don't have, the circle of friends or whatever to do an ongoing group.
Right.
Which I went to a game store for a long time. So, I mean, I have a couple different groups that I play with. And the game store honestly did a really good job of transferring online, and starting to organize virtual.
Your group?
Yeah, well, the store that I was going to.
Okay.
My group is honestly, so they run like, the store that I was going to runs like on average like 3 to 5 tables a week. Before the pandemic, there were some nights where we had upwards of like 80 some odd people there, playing at a bunch of different tables, on the same night.
Okay.
But after the pandemic hit, they transitioned to doing it. They organized it all online through Discord, and playing on virtual tables. And they still do every week. They run 2-3 tables virtually.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've played with a couple of different groups. I have some neighbors who play, and they've done like a couple of different game systems. I know there's on Roll20, there's a few different you can play. I honestly haven't tried them yet, even though I've kind of wanted to, but it's been hit and miss for me for the pandemic. I've been an unreliable player.
Yeah. I mean, we're older now. One of the things that I've realized is because I've been doing this, probably been role playing since what, 83.
Okay.
So I
About the
can't
same.
devote as much, huh?
That's probably about the same for me when I was about 11. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't devote the same amount of time, um, to the activity. You have different things that take your attention and responsibilities.
Yeah.
So I can't do it as much as I used to. And
Right.
that's I try to go every 2 weeks to my
Right.
group. And I GM one session, and then another person GMs 2 weeks after that.
You guys
So
maintain like multiple stories, multiple campaigns?
yeah. So I, like I said, I GM a session. Mine's basically a space campaign.
Right.
The
What
other
system do
person,
you use?
it's Hero Systems.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a generic system. You can do fantasy, supers, space, whatever, based on this. It's like GURPS or whatever. I think it came out before GURPS,
Oh,
or
really? So
right
it's been
around the
around a
same
while, but
time. Yeah, it's been out for a while. Yeah,
okay.
they may actually be around the same time period. I think GURPS has been around for what, about 40 some years now as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I feel old.
we're old, bro. We're old.
We're as old from the eight. We're as far from the 80s now as the 80s were from the 40s.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So, you know, I haven't really tried to play any new systems. I've played that, for the majority of my role playing life. I have dabbled in the, what is it? The Palladium system,
Okay.
D20
D20.
system. I when I was younger, I played D&D. I
Yeah.
think I haven't played D&D since the third edition. And,
Okay.
I hear a lot of people say fifth edition is a lot more streamlined.
It
One of
is.
the things that drove me away from D&D was it was just so much, man. I couldn't do it, bro. When you're sitting up here and it takes you like an hour and a half, 2 hours to create a character,
Right.
I'm good.
Yeah. No, you're right. It was. It got, yeah. They did. I mean, I played a lot of 3.5. I like you said, I started back in the original box edition, and I played, a bunch of editions. I think the only edition I didn't play was fourth.
Mhm.
My friends and I were still playing 3.5, through
Mhm.
that period. Um, but yeah, it did. It got cumbersome.
Yeah.
Um, five. I mean, honestly, with the digital tools, I think it helps a lot. Like D&D
Right.
Beyond, it
Okay.
is still. If you were to try to do all that, I think on paper, it's still cumbersome. But I think that
Right.
the digital tools, like being able to go create a character on D&D Beyond, makes it really.
Okay.
It's not just D&D Beyond. There's other character generators too that you can use
Mhm.
a lot easier.
Okay. Yeah. And that is a plus, now in this day and age where you can put it in the program and it spits out the sheet and
Yeah,
everything. So that is cool.
it does leave a lot of people to. Uh, in my, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but in my experience, I see a lot more people now doing writing backstories and putting more energy into the development of their character than they were before, because they're not as worried about keeping track of stats and things like that, so they're able to like write a more intricate backstory.
Right. Well, yeah, we've had this conversation before. To me, when I was younger, when I first got introduced to it, yeah, all you're really worried about is, can my character beat your character? I want to do combat or
Right.
whatever. And the story nature of role playing really wasn't focused on. But
Right.
just like you mature in a lot of different things, you
Hmm.
have to realize that, and the way I try to explain it to my characters, it's called role playing for a reason. You're basically assuming the role
Hmm.
of this character that you're playing. Now, I don't expect everyone to be like, De Niro or
Right.
anyone in a character actor, where I have to immerse myself in this and I have to become one with this person, this persona. But you should, hey, this is this character's backstory. This is what this character likes and doesn't like. So while you're role playing, and it's not Anthony Gentry that's
Mhm.
actually in this world and role playing. This is, James Tiberius Kirk that I'm playing.
Right.
And I,
Well, yeah. No, you're right. I mean, it's funny because when I was first playing, I was playing, when we were kids, it was all, like you said, it was all combat, right? It was basically like a different kind of board combat game where we would
right,
have, you could roll your character who would then, the primary focus of the game was the fights.
right.
Um, and then when I was in college, I played with a group of people who were in theater,
Mm-hmm.
and that was an eye-opening experience because to them, I mean, that was when I realized, oh yeah, this is a role-playing game.
Right.
Like,
Right.
when I realized, like, that was the one thing we really had been doing, was playing
Yeah.
the roles. Like,
Yeah. You were spelling it ROLL instead of
right, exactly.
ROLE.
Yes, it
Exactly.
was. It really was. It was, we were role ROLL playing. And
Yep.
so yeah, it's nowadays, because I will DM, like, or before the pandemic, and I hope to again, I DM public games, for Adventures League,
Mm-hmm.
at game stores.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things I like Adventure League, honestly, because as an adult, like you said, I don't have like that circle of reliable friends who none of us have anything to do, so we can all get together every week. We
Right.
all have lives now, so the next best thing is you go to the game store, and everybody who's available that week gets together.
Mm-hmm.
You might not even know them. A lot of times it was total strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what you find is there's people who come to it for different reasons. Some people just want the combat, some people want the role playing, some people want the story building aspect of it,
Right.
which is interesting because it takes a lot of skill to be a good GM. Like
It
like
does.
I am nowhere near so as much as I enjoy the storytelling aspect of the game, but I'm not the storyteller like you are. Like, you've crafted your whole entire world and this whole narrative that, quite
Oh yeah.
honestly, if
Oh
I
yeah.
had the skill, I'd write some of that down as a script. To,
Yeah. Matter of fact, do I have that book in here? No, it's in the closet out in the hall. But I actually printed up a book,
Mhm.
for my game world.
I've honestly thought that that's actually, so, like, going back to Dragonlance,
Mhm.
the original Dragonlance books, I've always thought that was an interesting idea for a writer, is that, because one of the things about being trying to write a story is trying to come up with the arcs on your own, like, the twists and stuff of what happens. And
Right.
it's an interesting thing that they base the story off of a role-playing game, where some
Mhm.
of the twists that came out of it were just like ad libs from other people,
Right.
that twist that they never would have thought of,
Mhm.
that
Right.
make the whole thing feel a little more organic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And
Which is
that's
interesting, like to your story, your whole, the alien invasion game you guys are doing.
yeah.
um the characters go out into space, they run into a hostile force, they go
Yep.
back to Earth to warn everyone, and then they forget to warn everyone.
Exactly. They're so, and I look at it where, just like day to day, life gets in the way. Hey, I meant to call you or whatever, but guess what? I got, involved in this and that. So these, like you said, these characters come back to Earth to warn of an impending alien invasion, and then have to deal with, the current situation on Earth, and they're fighting corporations, and they're part of this resistance. And guess what? The aliens show up and they're like, well, we didn't know. Well, yeah, you did. Like, you just got immersed in all this other activity and forgot, so yeah. And it was very, funny to me as a GM, where, they're literally like running around with chickens with their heads cut off. And I'm like, but the entire campaign was set up that you were returning to Earth to warn Earth.
You had one job.
You had one job. Yeah. And one of the things that I did, this overarching campaign, was tie it in, and loose ends that I had introduced in the narrative, to tie that into basically the solution of their problems. And the characters have literally just stumbled upon the solution or whatever. But there was a lot of issues or whatever during, me GMing this campaign, where, like, and I don't know if I got it from you or someone else, where I will give my characters feedback
Hmm.
on, what they've done during the campaign. in that session to say, you know, well, you know, I thought you did this well, but you know, your character being, you know, like a rogue or whatever, you really didn't play this up very well. So you know, I might ding them an experience point because of that. You know, whereas, you know, like one character, he busts into an operating room. You know, this doctor's operating on someone, and he just says, I'm a bust into the operating room and shoot the, you know, the doctor in the back. And he ends up killing the doctor. And then he turns to one of the nurses that's assisting the operation, and he says, patch this guy up. And the nurse is like, well, like, you know, yeah, I can sew him up, but you know, he's got like part of his guts hanging out. Like, you know, I can't like repair that. I don't know what to do. So he ends up killing the patient on the table. And while I found it hilarious, you know, I had to point out to him, I said, you know, like, right, you burst into the room, and actually the doctor was basically being forced to perform this operation, you know, and while he was doing something bad, it wasn't because of his own actions that he, you know, under his own reasoning that he was doing that. And so you bursting into the room and just shooting a guy in the back, for one, you know, really didn't help matters. And then, you know, like you can't be that rash. Like, you know, it's not one of your disadvantages. And, you know, you're just so willing to shoot first and ask questions second.
It's personally, it's one of those things where I am, so I'm, there's a lot of different styles of GMing, right? And some people I know from gaming stores that there are some people who GM or DM, and they see the game dynamic as being like the players versus the GM. Or their job as a GM is to try to kill the players.
Right.
You know, like they go into it with the idea of trying to get a total, you know, TPK.
Right.
But in my opinion, it's always been like I've been more into the story, and I'm a big fan of natural consequences.
Right.
And I have no problem letting your character die if he continues to do stupid things like that, which is one of those things that I keep asking the player, what would your character do?
Right.
What would you do? Because it's one of those things I used to do. I'd say, okay, this is a situation. What do you do? And instead I started phrasing it, okay, you're in the situation. It's set up. What does your character do?
Right.
So that they have to put themselves in that mind.
Yep.
One of the things that when I played with the theater group, one of the things they used to require was, you know, you have to speak in your character's voice. You know, you had to give your character a voice.
Right.
That was, you know, like you don't have to act like you said. You don't have to be De Niro. You just have to like give them a voice so that I know when you're speaking as you and when you're speaking as your character.
Right.
Which if I can, like there's some tables that are willing to do that. But if you can get people to do that, that actually helps a lot with people thinking a little more before they do something.
Right.
Because you do, especially with a younger player, they tend to do that type of thing. Like where, like, what do you do? I bust in shooting.
Right.
You know, like.
I know it is. It's one of those things that people don't take it seriously or whatever. They, you know, they just want to roll dice. They want to do it. It's almost like Call of Duty, you know.
One of the shooting.
Right. One of the knocks against Call of Duty is hey, you just run into a group of people and start shooting like you're actually shooting a rifle, a gun. You know, you're not going to do that and survive. Whereas games like Rainbow Six, there's a lot more strategy involved, and you know, you have to sneak and, you know, try to get an advantage tactical position wise, and a lot of people don't like that kind of game. So
so you guys still play, right? We the COVID scare.
I mean, we've met one time. The guy that, you know, had COVID, he didn't show up. Everybody else showed up, and I had on 2 masks at that time. and the whole, you know, he says, hey, you don't have to wear a mask around me and the wife. I said, I'm good. You know, going through that scare, whatever. If I'm gonna show up, you
Yeah.
know, I'm gonna wear a mask. No need to take that, like I'm already taking a risk showing up,
Right.
but I'm gonna, just try to have a little bit more protection and, along with, I'm sitting at one end of the table and everybody else is sitting on the sides and then the opposite end. Um, you know, that's about as best we can do in this situation, other than not meeting at all, because I don't think
Right.
those guys would really know the roll 20 and setting that up that way either.
It really is. Yeah. It's kind of funny because it is a learning curve for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Um, I personally, I look forward to being able to play tabletop again. A lot of accessories and stuff I have that I can't use,
Right. Yeah.
virtually. But I don't know. I was thinking about maybe after getting vaccinated, putting together an all vaccinated um, table.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, that
it's
would be cool. Yeah, that would be cool. One of these days, man, because I thought about starting a group at my house now. I have the room to do it. Maybe having a small group of 3 to 4 players, come to the house and
right.
do something occasionally. Um, so maybe, I'll have you stop by and, if you had time to join that group.
Okay. I'll have to learn that hero system.
It's easy, man. I'll explain it to you and everything, but yeah, I think you would learn the system.
Oh yeah. Do they have any digital tools for it, or is it still all pen and paper?
No, they do have digital tools. They have a combat manager. They have a character builder or whatever. That's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah. So they
Cool.
do have the digital tools.
Yeah, I've been like you said, Roll 20 is it's a virtual tabletop, and you can use
Mhm.
it with different systems. There's different virtual tabletops out there too. Some of them look like they have a lot of potential, but quite honestly, the thing for me has been just the system I use, D&D fifth edition. I can get the content that I want them, because it's the whole thing. Like I'll be honest, I do modules. Like I
Uh-huh.
do. I don't have the energy to put together my own stories, so I'll use a module. Like right.
Oh man. Yeah. Hey, you know what's funny? Uh
I'll be honest. Right now, I'm doing a Candlekeep mysteries.
okay.
The new D&D. Well, I don't you can't even see it. But it's actually it's cool because it's a collection of short adventures. They're all like each one's like a bite-sized mystery.
Uh-huh. Right. I gotta let me send you this link. Um and I didn't buy it off Amazon. And I don't really care for the cursing in the title, but this is a very
Oh yeah.
have you seen that?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I like, that's a pretty neat and they also have one how to role play your character like a boss.
Okay.
And I think, tools like that, because to me, I want to tell my own stories. And not to say that using modules like that isn't advantageous and can give you story ideas. But and even when I do my own modules, this is based on things that I've seen or like before. Like you could say the alien race, the alien movies with Sigourney Weaver. I took a little bit of that. The one book's what was that? The what was the guy that did the
Wow, that link is. So I said another one. This is another book that I've used before, actually. Although I've read it, but I haven't really used it a lot because I don't do my own home brews. But the Lazy Dungeon Master.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and right. I've taken advice from people, and I've read things on my campaign on how I can improve. Again, I'm human, and as while I've been doing this for a long time, that there's always room to improve. There's always room, for me to take feedback. Hey, you could have did this a little bit better. I have no problem with someone saying that to me. Now, right, if they say, oh, your campaigns are crap, and
Right.
you suck as a GM. Now, hey, maybe I won't agree with that, but I do encourage feedback and some constructive criticism
Right.
to help me improve.
Yeah. Yeah. That's always good.
Yes, sir. Yep.
All right, man. Um, I don't know. So, I mean, next, honestly, I was thinking what would be interesting would be like a story, like, you know, um, describing maybe your uh, campaign or.
Yeah. Yeah. I can fill you in. The campaign is, futuristic campaign where Earth sends out a group of explorers on a ship, and the mission was only supposed to take roughly I set up the game manual that I typed up as someone's diary. And so the guy that is explaining in his diary, the mission was supposed to take a total of 700 years, but one of the eggheads, messed up the math, and it actually took about 1,400 years that they were in outer space.
Oh wow. Okay.
So, the explorers, they are spending majority of the travel time in suspended animation, because they're human and they wouldn't live through the journey otherwise. But they encounter alien races and everything, and for the most part, they're friendly races. So they encounter a space station that I described as a mix of Mos Eisley, the Cantina, and they encounter one of the eggheads on the ship encounters an alien on the space station that pretty much pumps her for information about Earth and humankind and everything,
Okay.
and ends up kidnapping her and selling her. So the commander of the ship, he's pretty upset about this. They do spend some time looking for her, but are unable to find her. So they continue their mission. Now, unbeknown to them, while they're out in deep space exploring, an alien race had actually visited Earth. And this advanced alien race that visited Earth was more of an, technologically superior race, but they were physically weaker and had never developed any kind of security or army or militia, as you want to call it.
Okay.
They had tried to create an alien race, as their security arm or military, but that alien race had gotten out of their control and had forced them to flee their home planet. And that's when they encountered Earth. Well, while they're on Earth, they, corrupt Earth's economy and corporations, and the corporations become the dominant form of government on Earth. But because of them, basically taking advantage and ripping so many resources off of Earth, humanity has a war with them, and they eventually kick them off of Earth, as far as they know. But there are some that remain in Antarctica and on the moon. So back to the explorers out in deep space.
Yeah.
They encounter this alien race eventually. And this alien race learns of Earth's location, fighting the PCs. Mm-hmm. So the PCs rush back to Earth to warn Earth, hey, you got this alien race coming, we got to get together and beat them off. Well, they get back, right. Well, they get back to Earth.
But did you
huh?
You might want to rephrase that, but did you give them a name?
I did. I gave their alien race. They were called the Rihalu.
Okay. The ones that were coming to destroy them.
Right. And so they come back.
Who were the ones that came, the ones that created them?
The Facrerum.
Okay.
Yeah. So they come back to Earth, and they see hey, Earth is devastated after the war with the aliens. There's many of areas of Earth that are unpopulated now, radiation fallout, just wilderness. But the areas that are populated are ruled by corporations, and there's a resistance fighting the corporations. So the PCs come back and they jump whole hog into the resistance, fighting the corporations. And not one of my PCs ends up warning Earth that, hey, there's an alien invasion coming. They just say, hey, we're fighting a corporation. We're part of the resistance. Hoo ha! And then the aliens show up.
They forgot.
Yeah, they forgot, and it's like, come on, guys. So they have to flee Earth. They basically leave Earth. Hey, well, so much for Earth. And I'm like, wow. But eventually they do run across a solution, that I tie up, into the with the woman that was kidnapped originally.
Okay.
And they're executing that. So, it's a big campaign world, it's a big story, and
you
that's
wrote all this yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so by the way, we're going to add like copyright Anthony Gentry on all of this.
Okay. Yeah. I should I should.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, and so like would any of this have been like, did you start off this campaign like from a module or anything like this, or was it all homebrew from the beginning?
Yeah, it was all homebrew. I mean, actually I had started the campaign probably a good 8 years ago, and had to sideline it, with shift changes and stuff like that. So I sidelined it and then just picked it up probably at the end of 2019. We had picked it up again. And
Okay.
so we've pretty much been going since 2019 solidly. So altogether, this campaign is probably a good 2.5 years long.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's impressive, honestly, watching other people who homebrew their stuff. Like, I don't know if you ever watch any of the other like online role-playing shows or anything.
No, I actually haven't.
So I mean, obviously the most famous is Critical Role.
Uh-huh.
You've heard of that?
Yep.
Okay. They're coming out with a cartoon apparently based on their first campaign.
Mm-hmm.
But like another one that's really good is Adventure Zone.
I don't think I've seen that.
It's pretty good actually. Adventure Zone it's a group of brothers and their father who all do role-playing games. Their father is like a radio guy. He was like a big like radio personality, and his sons and him do this podcast where they play role-playing games. And it started off them doing a D&D game. Like their first episode was them doing like the Mines of Phandelver from the starter kit in D&D.
Okay.
And then they kind of went off and they did like their own homebrew thing from there. They like started in the campaign, kind of morphed into their own homebrew thing, and finished off like, and the whole thing is it was really well written. But the other thing they do that I find is interesting, that I don't know that Critical Role does this, but they do like an improv rules for it, which if you're doing improv, like the whole thing is you never say no. Everything is yes and. So it's like your character is going to do this, okay, and this happens, and then you're going to do this. There's never like no. It's always like, okay, you do this and this happens.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah.
So it leads to, and they've done actually. They did a whole thing where they've been doing it for a few years now, and they've done a whole thing where they did a bunch of different game systems. They've done. There's a few different ones. One actually I wouldn't mind trying. There's one called Bigfoot Stole My Car.
I never heard of that one.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
There's another one actually that's on Roll20 that's Kids on Bikes.
Okay.
You basically play a bunch of kids on your bikes, and there's
wow,
neighborhood adventures or mysteries, whatever.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. See, most of the campaigns that I like, when I was younger, I played exclusively superhero campaigns because I was in the comic books and everything, and and that's what I enjoyed the most. Yeah, we played Dungeons and Dragons, the Marvel superheroes RPG.
I remember that one. I still to this day use that as the basis for what I think of like characters like strength. Like how much does Spider-Man lift? I think that's
Yeah.
about 10 tons
Yep.
based on that.
Yeah. So villains and vigilantes. Uh, what was the other one? Palladium had their own. I can't remember their superhero one, but I played that. I played Robotech. Had actually, I actually had a lot of Robotech books, man. I think I threw those away in my move, man.
Oh wow. I
Oh,
mean, I did like I started off on D&D, like you said,
yeah.
and I tried like we did Gamma World,
Uh-huh.
we did Top Secret.
Okay.
I when that was actually
Yep.
pretty cool. Um, but we tried a few different systems. I never really did much of the generic. Like I did a little bit of GURPS,
Uh-huh.
but a little bit of Champions, which is I guess that's what Hero Systems evolved out of Champions.
Yeah, well, yes, Champions is based on hero systems. Champions
Is
is more of the superhero genre of hero system.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, I dabbled in that a long time ago.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it seems like it's had a resurgence now. There's a whole bunch of new content creators coming out with new types of things. They just
Yeah.
I honestly I haven't read anything about it, but I know that they did this big launch on Roll20 of a new space-based role-playing system called Burn Bright.
Really? I
Yeah,
never heard of that one.
yeah. I honestly, I mean, I know they released the source books and everything, and some adventures on Roll20, but I honestly haven't bought any of it yet.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of systems. You got the Traveler series. A lot of people, really love Traveler, though I've never played it. It's
Yeah.
fairly detailed from what I know.
Seems like they always come out with like systems designed for like specific. Like there was a Lord of the Rings role playing game.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
there was I think there's actually a Dresden Files role playing game.
Oh wow. I know there's a Game of Thrones or
Yeah.
Song of Fire and Ice RPG now.
Which
I
I mean, all that's a little bit redundant in my opinion, because all that kind of goes back to the same, D&D.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, right. That's where, they're the original. And
Right.
Everybody is just basically imitating them.
Yeah. So actually, so it's interesting. The have you read I mean, Gary Gygax started D&D,
Uh-huh.
and he was heavily influenced by Tolkien and
Mhm.
Lord of the Rings.
Right.
And Tolkien was heavily influenced by the stories of Conan
Uh-huh.
and Fafnir and the Grey Mouser. Have you ever read any of those?
No, I haven't read the last. No, I've read some of. Yeah, I've read Howard. Robert Howard's.
Howard.
Yeah, I've read Conan, good deal. I've read most of Tolkien, but yeah, the other ones no.
It's funny because I didn't even recognize them at first. These characters actually, so these stories go back to like the 1930s.
Mm-hmm.
That they were. I'll post a link to it. Yeah, they were written. What was his name? Fritz Leiber.
Okay.
The guy who wrote them, and then, so this is the kind of thing that also informed, Tolkien when he was writing his stuff. But yeah, we had a conversation in one of our last episode about Conan and how Conan because he's in the Marvel universe now in a way. They could do that. Disney Plus, I could totally do their own Conan series now.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. And I will watch it. But people role playing is a form of escapism. Just like reading a novel or anything else. You don't have to worry about your troubles or anything. You can do it for as short as an hour if you want. It can. I've gone to sessions that pretty much have been 12 hours.
Oh man, yeah, it's funny because that's what when I was a kid and we first started playing D&D, man, it was like it would be like a 6 to 12 hour game session.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah,
Nowadays,
I mean,
honestly, maybe it's just I've developed I've lost my patience. I've developed AD&D, something like it's hard for me to go past like 3 hours in a single session.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. Well, and everybody, people are different. I know some people, they're like, hey, if it's not 5 hours, at least 5 hours, I don't even want to show up.
Yeah.
it's like, hey man, I'm married, I have kids,
Right.
I can't just say, hey, I'm leaving at 11 o'clock, one Saturday, and then I don't show up until like 2 o'clock in the morning because the game session went until like midnight.
Yeah. Nope, that's one of those things you had to give up, when you get older and
Yep. Yes, sir.
Gracefully leave behind the things of youth, and 12-hour sessions is one of them.
Absolutely, man. I mean, bruh, I got to cut my grass, I got to do all this other stuff. I can't just, be devoting, every weekend. As a matter of fact, I know people that role play every weekend. Hey, now, if it's the winter, okay, I might be able to see, devoting some time because you're not really going out like you do here in Michigan.
Right.
But, are you going to do that when, hey, it's nice out? People are out there cutting, like I said, cutting grass, going to the park, bike riding, spending time with the family. You're really devoting every weekend to RPG. Like, that's a lot.
It is. It's a lot. I mean, I love it, but I don't spend that much time on it. I can't.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. I do too. I know people who do it like, multiple times a week. It's again, maybe it's funny because it is one of those things, if I owned a game store, that's like the only way I can really see like playing that up.
Oh yeah. You know what? But there's one game store near me, and they do have, they like since COVID they haven't had anything, but they mostly have just Pokemon tournaments and Magic the Gathering tournaments. The RPGing is very limited.
Is it? Which one is it?
What is that? Gauntlet. Gamers Gauntlet. Yeah,
that's the one that I DM at.
Really?
Yeah, every Wednesday night they do. You're right though, is that it is mostly Pokemon and Magic tournaments.
Yeah,
it's like they do those like every night there though. But then like once a week they have like a role playing night.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they used to actually before pre-pandemic they did.
Okay.
And now I'm not sure if anybody's honestly playing in the store.
Yeah, I don't think they are. I know like last time I stopped in there, they said basically they're just selling games. Everything else is just, the back was closed, and matter of fact, they had it blocked off. But yeah, every time that I've gone in there, I mean, I see more people playing tabletop, games, like, the battle simulation with the miniatures than I do actually role playing.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully one of these days we'll be able to go back.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean,
there was so it's funny, pre-pandemic is they closed down just before the pandemic hit, but there was another really good game store north of there at like 23 in Gratiot that was it was a smaller store, but it was actually set up really cool. They actually had like this kind of like fantasy tavern decor to it, and they had like a room set up in the back specifically for role playing, for streaming your role playing game.
Wow.
Where it was this like fantasy tavern looking room with like wood, walls, and it was cameras all over the place.
Wow.
So, like over the table and at each chair. So you could, if you wanted to stream your game on Twitch, you could. Which was,
and they closed down, huh?
Unfortunately, yeah. Even
see, I would actually like to have a business like that, man.
I know, right?
Yeah. Maybe we should start something like that, bro.
Well, once the pandemic's over, yeah.
Well, right. I mean, once the pandemic's over, but yeah, I'd actually be all for that, man. And as a matter of fact, just a place where, gamers can gather, because we're older now, man. And there's not a lot of young gamers that I see and I know they exist. They go to conventions. I haven't been to a convention in a while, but I don't think there's a lot of room for younger gamers to get into it and be introduced into it in a friendly environment.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's kind of up to bringing the kids into. It's one of those things I would like to do too, is bring my kids to before the pandemic. Honestly, that's one of the things we had started to do is both of my kids, honestly, had started to come into the store and play.
Mm-hmm.
They had a woman specifically who was running a kids table for role playing.
Wow.
And my kids would come and play at that.
Okay.
But honestly, they're getting older now. My son just turned 12, so he could do D&D now.
Uh-huh.
Of that age. Both my kids could
cool.
probably do it. It's just a matter of we need more people to do it properly.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
But yeah, honestly, that's the kind of thing. A good game store like that would be a good thing. It just needs, like, with everything, it's location.
Right. Yeah, it's location. You got to think about rent too, how much it costs, or whatever. But if you can get a solid core of people coming in to the store, I think you can make your money.
Yeah, it's a matter of how you make your money. If you're just renting space or charging people to come in and game or organizing the games yourself.
Well, I mean, honestly, I think
that's one of the things they did well at that Gamers Gauntlet is they actually organized an Adventures League.
Well, right, but don't they make most of their money by like the actual selling of merchandise and the tournaments that they run?
Probably.
Yeah. Right. You have to do something like that unless like you're selling food or something or whatever, which is supplementing. But then that's a lot more that you have to have, licenses or whatever, and making sure that the food is nice and clean and your space. So you're right. I think they make most of their money off the merchandise sales and tournament stuff.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens with gaming going forward.
Yeah.
With I think personally the pandemic has made online play normal in a way that it probably wouldn't have been without the pandemic. I mean, it was out there. Roll20 and D&D Beyond were out there before the pandemic hit.
Right.
But it didn't get the adoption, I think, until the pandemic hit and everybody was stuck at home.
Right.
A lot more people are using it now than I think otherwise would have. And I think somehow that's gonna, and I'm not sure how exactly yet, but I'm pretty sure that's going to change the way that we play even in person eventually.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what I'd have been like, if you only played virtually. I mean, I can remember, man, having some good times with my friends when I was younger, man, and we're just cracking up about things that would happen in the game and just joking around or whatever.
Right.
Like, it's not the same virtually. And I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that, for me, I can't imagine that I would be the gamer or the GM that I would be now if it was just entirely online.
No, I agree. It is different. It's it is an interesting phenomenon, honestly, that it's the difference between in-person social interaction and social interaction online.
Right.
I mean, generally speaking, the anonymity online afforded people makes them ruder than they would be in real life.
Yeah.
But in my experience, like online role playing, I honestly haven't had that bad of I haven't had really, knock on wood, I haven't had that bad of an experience with it. People are generally just as nice online as they would be in person. I've actually had more problems with people in person at game stores than I have online.
I hear you. Well, but that also goes to who you're gaming with. Like, the guys that I game with, were close friends, and I would go over and spend a night over their house and, stuff like that. So, that's one thing. And even the guys that I game with now, I've known them for 2 decades. So, yeah,
it is. It's funny too, because I mean, nowadays kids, they interact differently. They a lot of them are online at a younger age, and they know, like, I don't know about you, but my kids know about a whole ecosphere of celebrities that I don't. like all of these YouTubers and stuff that,
Oh my God. Yeah.
uh, which is funny because technically, I suppose we were YouTubers,
Yeah, but
but
we're no celebrities, bro.
right,
We ain't got a million fans or a million likes and subscribers.
right. I'm sure they're
Hey,
not doing
but
this.
that reminds me, like and subscribe.
Yes, thank you. Which is funny because like I don't do this for the money, right?
Right.
This isn't, I'm trying not to monetize it, which not to make light of it, but it's like it's why we're obviously not putting that much production value into it.
Well, right, but I mean, we're talking about things that we love
Yeah,
and we like. So, right, I mean, yeah, getting paid to do it would be nice, but it's not a requirement for me to do it.
right. Yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, it is one of those things that where kids know of a different type of like they interact with people online from a younger age, which I'm not sure that that's a good thing.
Right.
Our kids just learning to be ruder earlier. I don't know.
Well, I think the socialization skills is what is being hurt in that generation.
Right.
There's a lot of things that you just pick up on in person, and not to say that you can't pick it up on online, but what's to stop me from turning off my camera or whatever? And you're not when you say something, you don't see me like roll my eyes or
Right. Yeah. Well, the whole thing of body language, is lost.
Yeah.
From especially from like text chat and things like that. Yeah. There's no social cues.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right, brother.
This has been great. We should do this again.
Wonderful, man.
All right. Yes, like and subscribe. And next time on Intellicide.
Yep. Intellicide out.